Hey everybody, today I am back at my own house in the Upper Peninsula and I'm going to be working on my Shady side yard. So this is a project that I started a little bit last year, did a lot last weekend, but it was pouring rain so I didn't record any of it. So I'm going to show you where I'm at right now, and then I'm going to do a little bit more work on this, a little bit more work in the front yard, and then maybe there'll be time for me to show you a little bit about what's going on our back deck and what kind of plants we have back there. So let me just give you a little look right over here. So as we walk past my plant storage over here around to the side garden, you're going to see this area back here is very shady. There's a little bit of sunlight that comes in the morning. Otherwise, it doesn't get any direct sunlight. This entire bed was completely covered with this plant here. It's the same thing as snow on the mountain, only it doesn't have the variegation. Very, very invasive. It's been really hard to get rid of. I think we're going to be dealing with it forever. But back here we do have a couple different plants. So this is a snowberry, so it's just starting to bloom and then it'll get berries later on. And then this bigger plant here is a elderberry. So it just finished flowering. Some of the flowers got dropped down over there. And because it's such a dark shady spot, there's only certain plants that are going to do well in full shade. So hostas are one of them. This one here is one called Shadowlands Coast to Coast. I love the bright color of it. Decided to put that one right here on the edge because I thought that's just really going to stand out. And then this one here is another one called Vulcan, and I love that it has pretty much three colors on it. So it has that bit of an ivory center, and then a lighter green, and then a darker green going through. Really nice. You'll notice I do have some slug damage on these. So we've got the sluggo put out. Now this is probably more sluggo than we need, but hey, we're fighting them. And you can see how all of this snow on the mountains coming through. I'm going to really have to keep up on this. Otherwise, I'm going to regret it because it'll just keep moving in. This one here is called Shadowlands Wee, and this one I love that frilly edge. I think I included another video earlier in the season, and with that lighter rim, it really does make the waviness stand out, but you can see slugs have taken a couple bites out of them. And then these two I had planted last year, and I can't remember exactly which ones they were. All this slug damage had happened earlier in the season, and so I've got that was before we were putting out the sluggo. Another one that we put in last year that I can't remember. There are two arborescent hydrangeas here. These were just little bits that we had they had broken off another hydrangea and stuck them in the ground and they took. So I don't know how easy that normally is, but these just are happy here. They don't get much sun except for right now. For about 2 hours, they might get some sun, and they're blooming and they're doing just fine. So we're happy to see that happens. Right here is one of the largest hostas on the market. This is the Empress Wu. So just put it here just because I wanted some height, stuck it kind of between these two Annabelles. We'll see how they do. I've never seen Empress Wu get to its full size. I see pictures of it and it's incredible, but every time I see it, it's always, just more of a maybe 2 foot, 3 foot. And then this one over here, you can see some big slug damage. I'll probably remove that leaf in particular. And this is a hosta called Big Daddy. And so it gets really nice, big, fat leaves. It only gets like 2 feet tall or so and wide, but it's got great kind of bluish colored leaves. And then this plant here has been here, although none of us remember seeing it until last year. It's a, Hydrangea? Is that what it's called? It's one of those plants that we carry it once in a while because sometimes we're not able to get it. But in the nursery pots, it never looks very nice. But here in the yard, it's got a very tropical, almost like dinosaur food kind of look to it. So glad that that one's made it through, held up against all the more invasive plants. The little fern glen here is absolutely gorgeous as well. So for today, I want to add a couple more plants. And the plants that I want to add, they're over here. This one here is an epimedium. It's called Red Baron. And the new growth has this beautiful red color on it. This is now older growth, so it's going to be just a beautiful green color. And I like the texture, like how it kind of quivers in the wind. And let's see, the sizing gets about a foot tall, maybe a little wider as well. So really quite a pretty one. And you can see just got that nice red foliage when it comes out. So I'm going to put that in. These here I think I'm going to put in the other side of the house. I also have a couple of these hellebores. And hellebores are absolutely beautiful. They're spring bloomers. And I got 3 of these, Honeymoon in New York. And they're black flowering ones. I absolutely love how these look. Now the black flowers aren't super showy, but it doesn't matter. I still want to have them just because they're really unusual. And then I have this other one here, and this one's just a mystery. So I don't know what color it's going to be. So I'm just going to tuck it in. My thought is that I do want to put them right in here. And the nice thing about hellebores is that they naturalize, which means they'll naturally spread, but they don't become invasive. They just kind of, the clump just gets bigger and bigger, and they're just beautiful plants. So I think I'm going to put maybe 2 of them here. I'm considering one right here, maybe the mystery one, and then I'll probably stick another one right in here. And then over in front of the arborescent hydrangea, I might put that epimedium. And there's lots of really cool epimediums, but they kind of run the gamut as far as what conditions they can take and which zones they can handle. So this one's a pretty hardy one, so we'll kind of work with that. So let me get to work. So as I was getting ready to work on that side yard and that first bead of sweat started dripping down my face, I thought, why am I working in the shady spot first? I need to start here where it gets nice and sunny and do it before the heat comes up, because it's going to be really warm today. And so this area, everything's coming up really beautiful, looking really, really great. But I know some of you had commented like, I'm surprised you're not putting any creeping phlox in here. And the reason why I didn't is because I didn't have access to any. But I did get my hands on a couple of plants, and creeping phlox is always so nice. It's super cold hardy, salt tolerant, and it gets beautiful, beautiful flowers, absolutely covered in flowers in the springtime, one of the first things to bloom. So I have 2 colors. One is bedazzled pink, so it gets a really nice pink color. It's not that bright fuchsia pink that you'll see out there. It's a little bit lighter pink, but it's still a beautiful one nonetheless. And then the other one is the emerald blue, which is a really popular one, a little more of a lavender purple color, absolutely gorgeous. And the nice thing about phlox is that it is a bit of a creeper spreader, so it gets a little wider. Again, not an invasive one, but if you put a couple plants together, a lot of times they'll just fill right in and you'll get a full carpet. Once they're done blooming, they kind of blend in with the landscape, so you don't notice them that much. So they're kind of a nice one for that because they become a ground cover. Sometimes there's some varieties that might get a little yellow once it starts getting warm and they don't look quite as attractive, and they definitely look that way in containers a lot of times if they're not getting enough water and they're not happy. So when you're in a like a nursery setting and you see them at, you know, maybe I'm going to say May or June, you might be like, oh, those things look terrible. Well, they don't like being in the containers that much. These look pretty darn good though. So these are definitely getting the water that they need. So I'm going to put these in. I have kind of some unusual plans for where I'm going to put them though, because I'm going to dig up some plants, but I'm not going to move too much. Let me show you what I'm going to do. So I never did get around to trimming back this time. It's still doing fine, but I probably should still trim it. But what I'm going to do is I have these marigolds in here. So these 3 marigolds, because they're annuals, they're not coming back. They pretty much created the perfect placeholder for me to put some of those phlox in there. So I'm going to move those over. Like I said, because they're annuals, I'm not too worried. I can just even move them over just a foot or so, but they're kind of in prime locations. So I want everything kind of spread out, at least the perennials. So my plan is to just move those out, pop in the phlox there. So I'm going to have 3 of them there. And then you can see everything else is doing well. I'm really impressed with this creeping Veronica. That's the Speedwell Ripens or Ripens, whatever it is, Veronica, or Speedwell, doing really well. Everything else really looking very, very nice. So I'm on the right track with all of this. And then down here, I think I'm going to put maybe some of that right here. Now these are all annuals. Once we get kind of to this marigold and those plants, those are all annuals. So I'm probably going to put one there, one over here, and maybe one over here. I'm just kind of feeling it out right now. Or maybe I'll just cluster them right in this area here, so it kind of ends and begins with some phlox. I might end up in the future putting more in these other areas, but for now, that's what I'm going to work on. everybody, it's the next morning. I've got my cup of tea and I thought I'd take a little stroll and show you what I accomplished and let you know exactly where I put everything. I have 2 plants that I added over on the other side as well that I didn't tell you about, so I'll give you a little background on those plants as well. Getting beautiful morning light. Temperature is really comfortable right now. It's been getting so warm during the day, so it's a nice change up to have some cool morning. Here is that red barrenwort. Absolutely beautiful plant. I just like how it looks. I'm looking forward to the new foliage when that comes out. Haven't grown this type of plant before, so it'll be interesting to see how it does. Now, I do still need to do some cleanup of this, I call it snow on the mountain. There's an official name for it. Has anybody dealt with this one before, and what's the best way to get rid of it? Because if I keep plucking it, will it go away? Do I need to figure something else out? Because definitely the roots on this one are very, very vigorous. There's some that go deep, some that run across the surface. Very annoying. Now, I do have 2 bags extra of the mulch as well that I purchased. If you're like me and you're purchasing some things based on the price, sometimes you're going to find that you're not going to be able to get it next year or later on in the season. So if you want to make sure you have extra just in case you need it later on, good idea to have some that you store somewhere. I'll probably move this maybe under the deck or in the garage somewhere. But if you're buying, based on price, not on like brand loyalty, expect those products to maybe either be a different color next year or different texture or not available at all. So just a little tip there. Now, I do have some of the hellebores planted in here. So this one here is one called Confetti Cake. I forgot I had grabbed that one. Love the flower on that one. Then I only had 2 of the Honeymoon New York Night, which is that nice black one. So another one there. And then this one here is the mystery one. So I'll be looking forward to finding out what color that one is. And then if we pop out here, I do have my creeping phlox planted. So I have one right here and one right here. I was going to do more down here, but it ended up I only had 2 of this kind. So I thought, you know what, just going to put them in this spot, see how they do. And the other ones you saw me planting over here at the top of the hill. So we'll see how it all goes. At some point, some of these plants might not make it through the winter or through the salt that gets dumped on here, and some of them might take over or do too much. So I'm not afraid to change things up in this bed. So that's definitely something I'm keeping in mind as I'm doing this. This is all an experiment to see which plants do best over here. Now let me take you around to the other side to show you what I added over by the Hydrangea hideaway. I certainly can't complain with how all these hydrangeas are doing back here. Everything looks really healthy. I will say that these freshly planted arborescent ones are definitely needing some extra water. They don't have a real strong root system, so I've been giving them a little supplemental water. As for these Macrophylla serratas, I was planning to treat them with some aluminum sulfate to get those blue blooms off of them, but I was visiting a neighbor yesterday and they have a Macrophylla, I think it's an Endless Summer Original, and theirs is having blue blooms this year and they have done nothing with it. So it's possible that the soil here is actually acidic enough that we're going to naturally have blue. I'm not sure. I've never grown a Macrophylla or Serrata hydrangea here, so this will be new for me. So I think I'm going to skip treating it and just see what they naturally turn. These are going to be pink right now because they've been at our place in Posen where we have the high alkaline or high pH soil, so they're going to be pink there, both the soil and our water. So that's why these are definitely pink. We'll be curious to see as it produces new blooms if they turn out blue or pink. So next year will be the year that might be when we really know what the real color is. But everything else is blooming, doing well. And then around the corner though, I have planted a couple of extra things. So right back there, I planted what's called the Aurelia Sun King. And this is just a perennial that dies back every year, but it grows really big. It's like at least 3 feet tall and wide, creates kind of this beautiful shrub. Great golden color as well. So this is one that I wanted to just stick back there. I hope I have it far enough back, so that it can fill in every year. And with those bright golden leaves, I thought that was a really good addition because it definitely makes the hydrangeas in front of it stand out. And it also distracts from what's going on behind because we do have a little mess there. And then I planted this Persicaria over here. Now, I don't know what my deal is. I keep planting things too close. I know that eventually this is probably going to get very crowded, but the idea of planting it behind that post just didn't appeal to me, so I didn't want to play that game. So then I'm looking over here in this big empty spot, so I feel like I need 2. I don't know. Look at me. I'm just so undecided. But this Persicaria is called Golden Arrow, so that also has a much brighter leaf, and then it gets these beautiful flowers on it. Really love how those look, and so those will shoot up. There are varieties that have more red colored flowers as well. So it's a really nice one. And I will point out that this Aurelia Sun King is planted in the drip line of the roof line coming down. So there will be water coming down. And I know for those of you who are asking, aren't you going to put up gutters? Fact is, although they might not be expensive, this house is over 2 stories tall. So it is not just a weekend DIY project. I'd have to get help and hire somebody in to do that. So that's not on the agenda. And plus it hasn't had gutters for over 100 years. So maybe I'm going to see, what it does and just see if I even need them, because I don't mind, having that gully in there as long as it's not totally destroying my plants. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to just roll with it. I had mentioned going up on the deck and maybe checking out some of the plants I have up there. I think I'm going to save that for the next video. I've covered plenty, plus I want to enjoy my tea for a little bit. But before I go, I do want to ask if you have any advice for getting rid of that snow on the mountain, or any other suggestions on some of the stuff you saw. Do let me know, because these are a lot of new plants for me, or problems I'm dealing with that I haven't really addressed before. So I'm always all ears to hear what you guys recommend, because you guys always have good suggestions. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time up on the deck.